plans for tax. That's all over the front pages, isn't it?
Yeah, the Fouquet's tax, as Libération is calling it on its front page. Fouquet's, of course, is one of Paris's most expensive restaurants
Where we dine out every night.
Well, you apparently dine out every night, and where Nicolas Sarkozy famously had dinner on his election night back in 2007. Now, their front page really kind of points up the current president's links to the very rich and powerful. There's a great big super yacht here, which looks very like some that Nicolas Sarkozy has been photographed sunbathing on in recent years. And that essentially is also what François Hollande is trying to do with this proposition. You know, it won't actually bring in that much extra money. The idea is to tax all revenues of more than €1 million a year by 75%. But this is more, the paper says, kind of staking out his political territory, trying to draw a clear line between left and right, because as Nicolas Sarkozy recently has been trying to win over working class voters, he's trying to appeal to those on low incomes. François Hollande and the left-wing media are trying to play up as much as possible how much he's been president of the rich, how much he, of course, passed tax measures which meant that however much you earned, you couldn't possibly pay more than 50% in combined taxes on your earnings, and how much he was, of course, friends with the very wealthy and has been involved in a number of corruption scandals connecting him to them. Now, Libération does say, of course, you know, they're quite a left-wing paper, they're quite keen on this measure, and they say that 75% might sound like a big, shocking headline figure, but it's not actually as shocking as all that. If you look back across the history of tax policy, it's actually never been as low in most Western democracies as it is now. Until about 1980, you could pay 80% tax, even in the US, if you earned more than $1 million a year. Imagine that now with all the Republican candidates trying to announce the lowest possible tax rate. They actually say that 75% on incomes that high, €1 million a year, isn't actually all that exceptional.
OK, what about the right-wing press? I can't imagine they see it in quite the same way.
Well, there's a fear here, as if you announce something as dramatic as a headline 75% tax rate, isn't it? Which is that people are going to accuse you of declaring class war and, you know, run in all directions and panic. That's exactly what Le Monde is pointing out in its front page cartoon here. They've got Hollande menacing a banker with a large hammer marked tax. And then behind him, you've got a socialist activist going, be careful, people will start to think you're on the left. Which is, of course, you know, because this kind of really lefty policy has, has been demonised in the past by the right-wing media, like Le Figaro, who do indeed accuse François Hollande of declaring class war in their editorial today. They say that to start with, the amount of money that this tax will bring in is just a drop in the ocean in terms of the €1,700 billion French public debt, and they say that it will drive away very high-earning people who, as they see it from the right, have deserved to make all this money, they've worked hard, they say we'll push them out of France so they'll end up paying no taxes at all, and in the end it will eventually be the French taxman who loses out in the long run. The business paper Les Echos, though, while they criticise François Hollande for taking what they say such an extreme measure as to go for 75%, they also say bankers really have brought this on themselves by awarding themselves so much money in recent payouts when most of the public blame them for the economic crisis.
So, Elena, you say drop in the ocean. Well, actually, it's the Figaro that said drop in the ocean. But who do the papers think the measure actually will affect? And is it really going to make people flee the country?
Well, who's going to have to pay more tax is the big headline at Le Parisien. They're looking at some famous individuals who might end up fleeing France because they'll have to pay more tax, like Liliane Bettencourt, France's richest woman, who apparently made €334 million in dividends last year, and France's new golden boy, Hollywood star Jean Dujardin, who might decide to stay in Hollywood because he made €2.5 million last year, which the paper says might send him running away from François Hollande's tax. The website Rue 89 is looking also at which sports stars will be affected, saying the big clubs Paris Saint-Germain and Olympique Marseille might be panicking that all their stars will apply to transfer to places with less punishing tax regimes.
We don't want to lose Jean Dujardin. We'll have him back. All right, Elena, thank you very much. Elena with the French papers here on France 24. Coming up really short.